Hi, so welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Renee Hobbs, and on behalf of the New Education Lab and National Louis University and the University of Rhode Island, I want to welcome you to it's our first webinar of 2020, and it's about a topic that's just about as exciting as could possibly imagine. We're announcing the 8th Annual Summer Institute in Digital Literacy, which will be held this summer on the campus of National Louis University, and really beginning phase 2 of our program. So let's do a little bit of ground rules around how our webinar is going to work tonight. We'd like to ask if you can use your mute button if you're not speaking now. That'll kind of minimize some of that extraneous noise that we hear in the background. We thought we would organize this webinar into 3 conversational chunks. First, Julie and I are going to talk a little bit about what we're most proud of about the Summer Institute and why we're so excited to be moving the program to Chicago for what we're calling phase 2. And then there'll be some comments and questions that you'll probably have for us. Then we'll hear from our Chicago friends. And our Chicago friends will talk a little bit about what's in it for them and why are they interested and excited about the possibility of being a partner for phase 2. And you may have some questions and comments and discussion for that group of folks. And then we'll have an open period for about 15 minutes, an open period where we'll just talk about whatever questions you have and whatever topics you want to discuss. Obviously, the focus of our work tonight is thinking about the power of partnership for transformational professional learning. We're gonna try to reinvent it, aren't we, Julie?
We're gonna try.
So while I share my screen with you and invite you to visit us at digilit.education, Julie, can you talk a little bit about what do you think are the biggest accomplishments of the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy? What are you most proud of? What's been most important to you over the last 7 years of developing this program?
Is that all? Sure. Hi, my name is Julie Koyo, and I work with Renee and all of these, many of these lovely faces that you see on the screen. I think it's really hard to capture everything in a few sentences about the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy, but a few things that I'm most proud of is the ever-reaching increase of new people that come and get to be, we get to learn from. And so when we started the first year, there were 20 or 30 people involved. We were primarily looking at classroom teachers, and we also had some other different kinds of folks. And through the years, we've built a community of classroom teachers, both at the elementary and the secondary level. We've built a community of library media specialists in school libraries and also public libraries. We certainly have a group of folks who are interested in higher education. We occasionally get some administrators to come. And I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is the group of faculty that we have the opportunity to put together every year to work with. So in terms of products, I suppose some of the most exciting things is that when you come to the Institute, we get to see people really grow in their confidence level, their understanding about what they think digital literacy is and how it might play out in their own spaces, their interest in collaborating with other people and building networks of teachers. At this point across the world, we often have teachers and others who come from 7 or 8 different countries around the world. And ever so slowly over the course of a week, or sometimes when you come back the second week or the third week, getting to see teachers think of themselves as leaders. And no matter what capacity you are, even if you're, quote, just a teacher, thinking about the role that you can play in really powerful ways. I think some of those are some of the things that I like to take away from the Institute.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Julie. You know, for me, I think about the different slogans or key phrases that have bubbled up over the years of the Summer Institute. And the one we started out with is still the one that's most meaningful to me, which is that we called it a hands-on, minds-on learning experience like no other. Sometimes people say, oh, it's a conference. It's like, no, it is not a conference, right? And some people say, oh, it's like a workshop. It's like, no, it's not a workshop. It's a hands-on, minds-on learning experience like no other. I've never encountered another program that's structured the same way as ours is. And I think part of what we've discovered over the years is that we create a community of people who care about each other, right? Right away, it's like we become kind of deeply connected in learning and sharing from each other. And if you think about it, because it's 42 hours in an intense week, that's more time. I think that's more time than I spend with my husband, you know, in an average month. So it's an intense experience of connecting and engaging with people on a lot of different levels. Now, why don't we hear from some of the folks in the room who've had an experience with the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy? And if you can identify, what are you most proud of, or what's been most meaningful to you over the past years that you have participated in? Who'd like to go first? Kristin.
Hey everybody, I'm Kristin Zemke, and I am super excited to be with you and super excited that this event is coming to Chicago. This is a hands-on, minds-on piece that I had been following on Twitter for years and years and was just learning from afar. Finally, last summer, I got to attend for the very first time, and it was mind-melting because it was a confluence of so many different backgrounds coming into a shared space to identify and converse on some of those next practices. So at one moment I was sitting with a news reporter from Australia and a law professor from Canada, and then a group of tech educators from Brazil, and it was just like ping pong with the amount of ideas that were bouncing around. So it's really like that cross-pollination and that umbrella of partnership, which I think makes this really unique.
Oh, thank you so much. Kara, Frank, you've been there since the very beginning. What do you like most?
This is Kara, and I'm the producer for the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy. I started off as a student in the summer in the graduate program. I think what I am most proud of about the building of this institute is what you had mentioned earlier, Renee, the collaborations that happen not only during the Institute, but that continue throughout the year, through the following summer to the following summer. I've experienced myself, but I know lots of others have experienced really, amazing relationships they've built relationships with friends, they've built writing partnerships with each other, and really expanded both their personal and the professional realms through the Institute. And I think it's about relationships, and I think it's a really powerful piece of the Institute.
It's about relationships. Nicely put. Frank, what do you think has been the most meaningful thing about your experience of the Summer Institute over these many years?
I think for me, it's been, I was in the first year, like Kara, as a participant, and in the second year on the leadership tier. And I think my experience over the 7 years has just been not only the community that we become and the importance of that community to me, but also my own professional growth and my own personal growth that comes from that, and my opportunity to kind of foster growth in those around me from what I bring back each year. I don't know, I went to visit a colleague last week a few hundred miles away, and by the time I came back, I was part of a 4-person presentation at a conference. So it's just what we do together now.
Yeah,
So,
it's what we do together. I think your comment, Frank, reflects a really important idea that we always emphasize, the idea that everyone learns from everyone, right? That's kind of a mantra. It turns out that you're coming to, you think you're coming to learn, but actually you will teach people at the Summer Institute, right? And people come and they say, "Oh, I don't know. I don't have great technology skills. I'm not sure if I'm appropriately at the right place." And turns out that person ends up teaching people. So that idea that everyone learns from everyone is super powerful, and it's the non-hierarchical nature of the program is incredibly thrilling to me. And I think the other topic, before I turn it over to Chicago folks, I want to talk about this new idea that came up last year. Julie, it got some attention at the University of Rhode Island when you said it. You said digital literacy is a moving target. What did you mean by that, and how is that idea embodied at the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy?
So we don't think that digital literacy is just one thing. And for every little square that pops up on your screen, there could very well be a new and exciting interpretation of what digital literacy is. Certainly, it's constantly changing and moving. And I think some of us see it from a reading perspective, others of it see it from a media literacy perspective. Still others look at it as video production and creation. And there's probably another 20 or 30 different perspectives. And I think one of the things that Renee and I and all of us learned early on is rather than thinking that digital literacy is one thing, and when people come, our job isn't to teach you that one thing. Our job is to encourage you to think about what does digital literacy mean to you in your context. How is it similar or different from what other people bring to the table? And then what conversations can you have with those different kinds of people, both at the Institute and when you go back to your own spaces to think about how can we actually move this moving target forward in lots of different kinds of ways. So rather than thinking it's just one thing, it really can be lots of different things. And most importantly, technology is not necessarily the definer of what digital literacy is.
Great. So now I see Charlie Quiro, Kristen Hokinson, Troy Hicks, Amanda Murphy, faculty members from the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy. For you, I have a really hard question. Why the heck should we move out of the lovely Providence, Rhode Island and go off into the great Chi-town, right? What do we stand to benefit from moving to Chicago? From your point of view, what might be some of the opportunities that are there for you personally, professionally, or for this movement that we're trying to promote, this digital literacy movement? Who wants to go first?
Renee, I'll pipe in. I heard somebody say earlier it was about the networking, and there's something to be said about expanding your network. I'm super excited to hear from the Chicago folks and find out all of the fun stuff that they have in store. I think it's an opportunity to broaden networks, and I'm really excited about it.
That definitely reflects one big reason why we're moving to Chicago is we feel like there's more for us to learn, and we want to find people that we can continue to learn from and with. Thanks so much for sharing. Troy, what's interesting about coming closer to Chicago from you, the Michigander?
Well, one thing is I can take the train and get there in just a few hours, so that's a nice piece. The other thing, of course, is that there's a much more intentional focus on equity and access, both for the students that we teach, but also for the educators that would be served by the Institute. So I really appreciate the ways in which all of you as a leadership team are exploring this concept and then enacting it. So it's not only just, yes, we're interested in equity and access, but we are actually walking the walk as we talk the talk.
And to that end, of course, we are delighted to announce that the McCormick Foundation has offered generous funding to support 10 scholarships for Chicago public school teachers to participate in the Summer Institute free of cost. And we're going to be announcing that a little bit later on in February, but we do absolutely want to underline that our appreciation and recognition of the value of digital literacy in relation to issues of equity and access. Amanda, talk to us a little bit about why you're excited that the Summer Institute is moving to Chicago.
I'm just super excited that to change the perspective. I think getting out of the small state of Rhode Island, we bring so many people in, but I'm excited to be able to go out into the Midwest, into territories unknown to me for sure. I don't really get out of Rhode Island much, but I think that just the new perspective and some fresh ideas. We've really kind of tapped the market in Rhode Island, especially with our districts, our states. What do we have? Is the same. We have less teachers than New York City public schools, so now we can hit more people and learn more from that power of partnership and networking. So I'm excited for that.
Nice. Okay, so now you've got a little bit of understanding of why we're excited about moving to Chicago. We want to turn it over to Ryan and Sophie. They're going to talk to us a little bit about why National Louis University is interested in partnering with us at the Summer Institute. Ryan?
Okay, yeah, let me share my screen. And we've pulled a few slides together for you, so let me know if you all can see this. Let me go in present mode.
Thumbs up on the present mode.
Okay, are you seeing a lovely blue screen?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm here on behalf of myself. Sophie's here as well. Sophie, are you?
Hello, everyone.
Oh, great. So we're here. We're so excited, first of all, to have this opportunity to partner with Media Education Lab and University of Rhode Island. I actually had the opportunity to attend the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy last year as a participant and had a really awesome kind of life-changing experience. And it was the intense collaboration and kind of like, it's kind of like, this has a negative connotation, but it's kind of like a football, like if anybody's ever, like if you're playing football and you have like really tough 2-a-day practices, but like you're looking forward to going back to practice the next day to do it again because you want to have that kind of shared bonding experience with your friends. I remember I stayed up till 2 a.m. some nights working on our presentation that we shared at the end of the week just because I was jazzed about it. So it was really, really a cool experience. I'm just excited to share that with some Chicagoland folks. And I wanted to say before we jump in that we actually got connected with Julie. Sophie actually invited me to be a part a few years back of our Reading Leadership Institute here at National Louis, where we do work with our network of teachers that have gone through our program. And Julie and Jill, who's also here, Kastic, as part of our faculty, both spoke. And by the time we heard from both of them, we were like, we've got to find a way to partner with these folks in Chicago. So we're so excited to be here with you all, and really, really hope that we can have a huge party in the Windy City this summer. So let's get started.
So, hi, I'm Sophie Degner. Ryan and I are two members of the reading program at National Louis, as Ryan just alluded to. we do a lot of things at National Louis, and Renee asked us to just sort of share a little bit about our school and why we are excited about not only the Summer Institute being here, but why we're excited about our school in general, and why we think it's a sort of a perfect match. So we have 2 other full-time faculty members who I know will be floating around for sure this summer. We work with pre-service teachers with teaching them literacy methods. We also are part of the reading program, which prepares reading specialists. We work with doc students. All of us work in area schools. And we're also really highly involved with our research and scholarship. And I know that one of the major interests that we have, of course, recently is when it comes to literacy and instruction, technology and literacy are kind of inextricably intertwined. And so part of our interest also will be self-serving. You know, how can we better serve our teachers as we learn at the Summer Institute? So.
Yeah, so just a couple things that we're excited about. We did some work in our reading clinic, which is a program for our future reading teachers and reading specialists with personal digital inquiry. And now that Julie's book has come out, I have a lot more great ideas to bring this summer. And we also, at our university, we have a column every month in the Illinois Reading Council Journal. It's a PD column, and we've actually, this makes me sound like a kind of self-serving person, but we happened to, before this partnership came about, review Renee and Julie's book, and I also reviewed Kristin's book recently. So Troy, yours is probably next. There's just so many great people on this call. It's really exciting.
It is exciting, and I will say that we've been doing this professional development column for Illinois Reading Council for a long time now, and I don't think any of the people on this call need our help in getting the word out about their books, but if you ever want us to review your book, let us know, because it goes to teachers across Illinois. Ryan was good enough when he was making this PowerPoint to include some book covers of books that I've written recently. So thanks. Yes, it's just, I think, making the point that we are pretty engaged in the world of teaching and instruction. So we are nationally recognized, and our reading program, I think, is one of the first reading programs in the country, founded by Camille Blackwitz and Donna Ogle back decades ago. We offer masters in reading. We help our teacher candidates get reading specialist and reading teacher endorsements. And we also offer it in different ways. So we do have face-to-face cohorts on 3 of our campuses. We have an online cohort, and we do have students from all over the country that take courses with us. And next fall, we are going to be rolling out a weekend executive model of our reading program. So very exciting.
This is our mission statement, and one of the things that I wanted to highlight on here is this idea of innovative teaching. And so Julie or Sophie will talk about this a little bit more when we talk about our history, but we've kind of always been grounded in innovation in one way or another. And so the fit of digital literacy is really important for us and it's also an area where we're learners as well. One of the things that's nice about our faculty, and I think you'll realize when you come visit us this summer, is that the everyone learns from everyone is very true. There are not a lot of big egos on our faculty. We collaborate quite a bit, and things like, you know, we've done kind of foregrounding our work with digital literacy. We're doing work with working for equity and social justice, really foregrounding that in our work. It's hard to not do that in Chicago, but those are some areas where we're growing, and we're excited to share with you all.
So National Louis, you know, it's been around for a really long time, actually. Not everybody's heard of it. It used to be called National College of Education. That was our name for a very long time, 100 years, as a matter of fact. But we were founded as a teacher preparation school. We were one of the first kindergarten schools. There was a big movement in the country around that time, the early childhood let me make sure I get that right. Yeah, the early childhood movement. And so National Louis was one of the first to get started with that. And our reputation has always been sort of grounded on our teacher education. But as the years have unfolded, we've grown. So now we're a university. We used to be a college, and we have an undergraduate college now, which is fairly new and really is very focused on equity. And Ryan, you're probably going to say it, but well, I'll wait around for that. But we also have the College of Professional Studies and Advancement. And recently we acquired Kendall College, which includes a cooking school, which is very exciting to us because they now cater our events often. So I think that's about that. Yeah, that's what I want to say, just historically. We did, in 2010, we sort of compacted a little bit as teacher education programs did, and we've really managed to turn that around, and we've been flourishing. And opportunities like the Summer Institute this summer are the things that sort of, I think, keep National Louis on the map. So we're excited.
Speaking of the map, Sophie, that was artfully done. I love that, just how we planned it. So we actually have a number of different kind of regional campuses, but you guys this summer are going to be smack dab in the middle, right next to the lake. Number 4 there on the map. Our campus is literally right across the street from the Art Institute. It's catty corner from the Bean, from Millennium Park. All sorts of great restaurants and bars, and you've got Navy Pier that's a quick Uber away. There's the museums are there. The Field Museum is a walking distance. I mean, there's a lot of really great opportunities in the city. Hopefully you'll manage your energy so that you don't spend all your time working like I did in Providence. But we're just really excited to have you here, and you know, it's a great location, especially summer in Chicago. If you've never enjoyed it, it feels like a beach town, even though you're in the Midwest.
So there's the transition, Ryan.
Oh.
It feels like a beach town, but this is about a 5-minute walk from your campus, right? It's a beautiful city, some of the best architecture in the country, and a really great place to be a learner. Now, let's open it up to everybody, because people have questions or comments. And so let's see what questions or comments you have.
I just wanted to let you know that we're working on a variety of different housing arrangements, and we will we'll be able to finalize that information probably in the next month or so. So just, you know, that it's there, it's coming.
So you might stay at a hotel, you might stay at a hostel, and you might even stay at a dorm, right?
Correct. Yep.
Cool. Thanks so much for pointing that out. I think I'd like to talk for a little bit about my hopes and dreams for this phase 2. I actually think we learned a lot in phase 1 about the creating a learning environment for adults as professional learners. And I think what I'm hoping to accomplish in the next phase of this project is to learn more about sustaining a learning community, and especially one that works all year, or one that lives and works all year round. Of course, we treasure our time for face-to-face learning in the summer, and that is really incredibly invigorating. I think it's a great burnout prevention tool, right? Because, you know, if you're in it for the long haul in whatever field or enterprise you're in, the chance to connect with people who are different than you, but who have some shared values, it's thrilling. And the way Kristin described it, you know, a journalist, a youth media professional, somebody from another country, somebody who's doing the same job you are, but with a different population of kids. There's just so much benefit that makes you, it refreshes your own way of thinking and gets you out of your ruts. It shakes you up in a really good way. So I'm really hoping to learn more about how to sustain that energy all year round. And I think we're going to try to experiment with a lot of different things kind of beyond the webinar as we try to think about building a learning community? Because we've always said, you know, the Media Education Lab is not a place, it's a state of mind, right? And so in a way, the Summer Institute is kind of trying to figure out, how do we create a community without necessarily having a geographically specific place? And maybe that means the Summer Institute will move, right? Maybe it'll move to Oklahoma, Ralph.
So, Renee, there's a couple of people who are asking a couple of questions. One, I don't have your name, E22037, but the woman or man coming from the Bahamas, she is asking if she didn't come last year, is she still able to attend this year? And definitely, we invite all kinds of people to come at any point. Many people obviously come for the very first time. Some of the people that you see here have come at least twice, and some have come
Every year.
7 years in a row.
Right.
We have a structure where the first year is a little bit more of an introduction, if you will.
We call that Tier 1.
Yep, and we try to get you excited and involved, and you come with some questions and you work with a partner, and we have some keynotes and we have some workshops, and we have this magical experience called Design Studio, which is where you and your partner work with each other and with teams to create a product by the end of the week. And then what typically happens is you go back into your workspaces and you're really, really excited, and you get about halfway through the year and you want to take your excitement beyond your space. And sometimes you get people who want to join the ride with you, and other times you get some people who might be a little cautious. And so lots of people come back the second year for what we call Tier 2.
Leadership.
And that's where you really start to think about, well, how do I actually build excitement and a shared vision so it's not just your own? And maybe at some point we can ask Charlie to mention just a little bit. I just wanted to answer one more question. Is the focus on K-12 only? Definitely not. We have K-12 folks, we have higher education, we have school and public library media specialists.
Can I tell a story about that, Julie? So
Sure.
I want about 20 to 25% of the people who show up are in the higher education community. They tend to be either communications and media faculty or teacher education. But we have had economics professors, anthropology professors. Last summer, do you remember, Julie? We had a nursing professor.
Mm-hmm.
And she partnered with a middle school, a 5th or 6th grade teacher on a inquiry on the topic of reflection. Both of them wanted to promote reflection. The nursing professor wanted her students to reflect on some of the clinical experiences they were having in the nursing program. The 5th and 6th grade teacher wanted her kids to learn how to reflect on their learning in whatever, she was a social studies teacher, I think. And it was so amazing to see how they figured out to create something together that worked that worked in the university context, and something very parallel that worked in the grade school context. So some of the most interesting stuff happens with the university faculty. And in the past, we've brought the university faculty together to specifically look at digital literacy in higher education, because the quality and thoughtfulness of the ideas generated is so enormous. And Ralph, I see you sitting there. Can you speak to Nancy Jennings' question? Is the focus on K-12 only? And how did you experience as a college professor at the University of Oklahoma?
I thought it was a great experience. I actually found the linkage to everything from K through 16 and grad even a little bit to be one of the great advantages, and one of the things that I'm trying to get a couple people from our library, people who'd be sort of more in the sort of information literacy, to be interested in this, because it's in Chicago, and that is something that a couple of people I know are interested in. So, but from a higher ed perspective, there's just linkages all over the place, which I'm a big supporter of. So
Yeah, yeah. I was absolutely thrilled to see the economics professor finding his way through this to think about how he could make his course more relevant and build connections between what's going on in the world of economics that's on the front pages of the newspaper to the theories and ideas that he's tried to develop in his college class. So turns out people find ways forward even in the most fluid and creative ways, because we kind of let you wrestle with it, right? We let people come in and sort of wrestle with, like, are these ideas relevant to me and my context? And that's part of why we all learn from each other, because we don't have all the answers.
yeah, I just also add, I mean, these issues are cross-cultural. I mean, they're affecting our entire society, and since our society has people who are self-governing, you know, there's a lot at stake at both ends of it. So whatever we can get started is hopefully something that becomes, you know, kind of encouraging people to take a stronger role in defining their way of participating in the culture as they, you know, go through different levels of education.
So what other questions or comments would you like to make, or do you have, about the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy coming to Chicago?
Hey, Renee, this is Charlie Koyo.
Hi,
and
Charlie.
I just wanted to pipe in about the leadership side of things. And one of the things I was going to say is what's exciting about going to Chicago is we're going to get out of our comfort zone. And one of the sayings we have in leadership is there's no growth in the comfort zone and no comfort in the growth zone. And we say that a lot. So I think the way we're modeling the way and kind of getting out of our normal areas of operating is really inspirational. And the other thing that's always been fascinating with me when I get to work with the educators and media specialists and librarians who come to the tier 2 is they all take on these challenging projects and sometimes are a little intimidated at first about taking on a leadership role, but they quickly realize how everyone is a leader and everyone is trying to provide inspiration and influence in these areas where they're, you know, you're already at the forefront of this digital literacy world just by thinking about coming to a conference or a session like this. And then they take that spark of idea and then they use some of the discipline we put into a leadership framework so that they can broaden their influence, build a community. As Kara was saying, relationships are really essential. And the community that's built through this Summer Institute has really been amazing over the years. So I'd encourage everyone, you know, everyone has a leadership role. If you're coming back for the second year or third year, I think you get more comfortable in that leadership role and you can really take on some new and exciting things so that when you go back to your world of work, you can bring in some of these new ideas and really inspire people to want to do these things that are so powerful and so important to our society. So that's one of the exciting things I'm looking forward to and going to Chicago. Everything Ryan said about all the hard work you're going to have to put in really is a rewarding part of being out of that comfort zone. So I encourage everybody to consider coming along.
Charlie, thank you so much for sharing that key idea. I think a lot of people come because they say, I want to beef up my skills, right? I'm aware, right, that I really don't know how to do a lot of these things when it comes to digital media and technology. A lot of people are kind of comfortable with email, and that's really where they're at when it comes to word processing and email, and that's where they're comfortable. And so in some ways, if you're only coming to improve your own skills, that's okay too. And we can guarantee you that you're gonna develop and enhance your skills. It happens through this magic called elbow to elbow. Julie, will you explain the elbow? Let's see if we can do, there we did it. What's elbow, how does elbow to elbow learning work when it comes to skills, digital skills?
Sure. I mean, we really believe, I think as Kara said in the beginning, much of what we do at the Summer Institute is about building relationships. And so a key element of that is having you work with at least one partner. Typically, we have this thing called dyad partners. And that's somebody who you partner up with for the week to work on a design studio project together. And we highly encourage you to meet and partner with somebody who's different than you in some way, because that's really where you get some new perspectives and you stretch. And the other advantage of that is you bring to the table then a certain amount of expertise. And I know for some people that makes you really nervous to think, well, wait a minute, I'm not an expert. And so we maybe don't always call it expertise, but when you come to that that elbow to elbow kind of collaborative relationship, you bring a lot of different experiences and you bring a lot of different questions. And so together, through that partnership and through the workshops and through all kinds of different settings, we encourage you to think about what you bring to the table and what you can contribute to the product that you're trying to create. And what often happens is by Wednesday or so, people start to realize, wait a minute, you tricked me, because it's really not about the product as much as the process. And even I'm not afraid to say that, because you'll get involved in Monday and Tuesday and totally forget that. And you'll really think it's about this awesome product by Wednesday, and it will be an awesome product. But by Friday, the beauty is you have worked with a partner you didn't know. Sometimes you don't even agree on everything. And through that experience, you have the confidence to leave and go back and venture into some new partnerships with people in your own workplace. And you have this huge, huge community now of, I don't know, maybe 800 or 900 people that you can tap into in our DigiLit community to kind of support you moving forward.
Here's a story of how it actually, that embodies what it looks like. So during the course of the week, you get a chance to choose from among maybe 30 or 40 different workshops. These are short 45-minute sessions where you get to learn a little bit, or you get exposed to a certain digital text or a platform or a tool, or you get to have a great discussion. And then working with your partner, what always happens is that you learn something in the workshop that your partner needs to know. And so you find yourself teaching someone the thing you just learned like half an hour ago or two days ago. So it's this kind of thing where you only get to go to 6 or 8 of the 30 workshops, but your partner goes to 6 or 8 of the 30 workshops. And between the two of you, you have a wealth of new ideas that you can deploy to the thing that you're working on and interested in. And the magic of that is that's what's really, I think that's where the empowerment comes from, right? Because you find that you're able to teach someone something you just learned like that morning or yesterday. And I think that's why the program builds so much confidence.
Renee, I have a question. Will there be an emphasis or any kind of information during the conference about creating online classes that value the need to create communities and get away from the structure of learning management systems?
Oh, woo! Oh yeah, girl. Laurie, thank you so much for asking that great question. We've been holding workshops that focus on innovation in online learning since the very beginning. Every year there's at least 2 or 3 programs where folks who are teaching online share their practices with each other. We usually do that in a forum that lets people sort of talk about how to step out of Blackboard, step away from Moodle, because the open network learning environment values a lot of what we care about in digital literacy and media literacy, which is having a public voice, speaking to an authentic audience, right? Using the power of communication and expression to make a difference in the world. And you can't do that behind the walled garden of the learning management system. So, right. So we feature examples of folks who are trying to do that, both in the K-12 context and in the higher education space and in the lifelong learning adult learner space. Frank, you've done some stuff on that. Troy Hicks has done some amazing stuff on that. So, of course, I try to do that all the time, but that's a topic we care a lot about. If you're interested in that topic, Lori, we'd love to have you and learn with you about that as we all trying to figure it out. And that's another point about it being a moving target, right? Because our thinking about LMS has changed even since 2013 when we started this program. But most of us, one of the things we do is we deflower Twitter virgins, right? So if a lot of people come and they've never used Twitter, and we say, well, to have a professional learning community, Twitter is a great way to do it. And some people are very cautious and hesitant, but most people by the end of the week, they sort of realize they can have a public presence on Twitter, see it and use it as a learning tool.
Hey, Renee, it's Kristin, and I'm having issues with my video on and off. I just want to pipe in and say, it's really about learning, right? And using digital tools and helping with that. And so I find that every year that idea of learning, personalized learning, blended learning, online learning, what does it really mean to have a learning management system? Do we need one or not? Like, those types of things are the conversations that, while they may or may not appear on the formal schedule, the format of the Summer Institute is such that you really have a lot of time and opportunity to have those types of conversations with the people who have the same interests that you do, which I think is the greatest piece of this. I feel I learned so much more outside of the traditional learning environments at the Summer Institute, because you're able to strike up those conversations or ask those kinds of, it's an inquiry institute, right? So you get to ask all of the questions, and then people gravitate towards you, and then you have an opportunity to figure out the answers together, which is what I think makes this particularly special.
Such a great point. And for shy, introverted types, we have the birds of a feather, right? Where you are invited to sit at a table of people with similar interests, or you're invited to propose a topic, right? And then gather people who want to talk about that topic. So we really do maximize the ability to learn from each other. And so that's partly why like Kristin says, the schedule has a lot of flexibility in it to account for the talent in the room. Now, we're getting to the end of our time, but I couldn't let you go without asking you to watch with me this beautiful 4-minute video produced by our friends from Brazil who came to the Summer Institute. They brought a team of 13 folks to the Summer Institute, and as part of their project, they made this video. This is a little excerpt from the video. I'm going to play it for you now.
In this fast-paced environment, information comes at us from many sources. In the days of print and TV, journalists, editors, broadcasters, authors, and publishers had the authority and the means to convey information to us. Today, as anyone can compose and publish information, the authorship and intent is often unclear. We often read things without really knowing who sent them and with what purpose. The question is, are we really reading as we're being constantly bombarded with information through all our senses? What does it even mean to read nowadays? And more importantly, how do we go from information to knowledge? These issues are particularly pressing for a teacher. If information is everywhere and no longer confined in books and personified in an authority figure, how do we teach? If information is abundant, but not all of it is trustworthy, how do we learn? Being part of a connected society is a great opportunity, but also a challenge. The idea that today's kids are digital natives has been mostly misread in the last decade. It does mean that they were born at a time when screens are everywhere, but it does not mean that they know how to navigate all this information critically and avail themselves of the opportunities to learn, grow, and contribute to the betterment of their community. Digital literacy, and not merely digital presence, is what's key to inclusion in our society. We went to the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy to discuss these issues with fellow educators and address some of the challenges we face in today's connected schools. Here are some of the questions we wanted to explore. How could we help students find trustworthy sources and understand their role in ensuring a healthy information environment for everyone? How could we help young people acquire media production skills that will support meaningful learning and give them a voice in society? How could we help get research information more efficiently and more critically, building knowledge instead of simply consuming it? And finally, how could we help educators teach media and information literacy and adopt practices that support creative, student-led learning? One of the things that we learned during DigiURI is that though many teachers practice digital and media literacy in some way or form, we must do so with intent. We learned that inquiry is the basis of learning and that there is no true knowledge without inquiry, analysis, and reflection. That being digitally fluent entails making full use of technology to investigate, collaborate, and create, being conscious and intentional about our creative and technical choices. And that being media literate gives us the means to fully participate in society by having the skills to critically interpret information, actively produce content, and publish and share responsibly. Finally, we understood that because we interact with media and information all the time, media literacy is not a separate subject to be taught in a weekly slot. Rather, it is a layer to be activated and applied to facilitate learning across all subjects. And it can take many forms. And now, what's next? We went to DigiURI because we want Brazilian educators to embrace digital and media literacy and make it part of their everyday practice, which is why we embarked on a journey to train the trainers. After returning home, we brought together a core group of digital literacy leaders in Brazil, journalists, educators, and researchers. Together, we revised the concepts we learned at DigiURI and devised learning strategies for the training sessions we will hold all over the country. Media literacy is for everyone, and it's everyone's job. So please join our movement. Come learn with us and get ready to lead your students to be citizens in our connected society. We hope to see you very soon.
Okay, you got to admit that the chance to come together with a creative group of educators, college faculty, librarians, media makers, journalists, citizens, politicians, everyone is welcome to join the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy in Chicago next July 19th through 24th. We're counting on you, the 24 of you who showed up to the webinar, and those of you who are watching it on the YouTube channel. We would be really grateful if you could help us promote the program, because we're going to need to make a lot of friends to make our Chicagoland program a success. So please encourage your friends and colleagues to learn more. The website, the new website, is probably best encountered by going to www.digilit.education. And there you can find everything you need about the program. Registration opens March 1st. I'm sure we're going to sell out. And Julie, part of the reason why is because we've got these amazing friends in Chicago who are going to help us find our new friends. So Kristin, Ryan, Sophie, all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being part of it. It always happens though, Julie, you always get the last word. So as part of our tradition, what words of encouragement and insight do you want to take us out on for our participants here in the webinar tonight?
I'm not prepared for the last word, but I will say I put in some additional things inside the chat. If you're interested in learning more about some of the experiences of people who have come and keep coming to the Institute, there's also a PDN to Practice blog, and I put the website there for you. but really be on the lookout for some, I think probably at least monthly, if not more than monthly, kinds of snippets of ideas of people you'll meet when you come to the Institute and what we're looking forward to. You'll learn a little more about our keynote speaker. So share the word, bring a friend, and we look forward to seeing you in July in Chicago.
Awesome. So on behalf of the Media Education Lab, National Lewis University, and the University of Rhode Island, let's wave goodbye. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you soon in the internet. If you want to learn more about the programs of the Media Education Lab, we're having our next book club on Monday, February 3rd. Go to the Media Education Lab and check it out. All right, thanks for joining us tonight. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.